Hi, everyone. Landry Etheridge here with Etheridge Counseling Group, joined today by Claire Johnson here in Charleston, South Carolina. We are talking all about narcissism, narcissistic personality disorder, and today in particular, how to, if you're in a relationship with a narcissist, whether it's friend, caregiver, parent, child, etc., how to disarm their narcissism to help them let their guard down, which is such an interesting concept, and I think not something we hear much about. So, Claire, in dealing with a narcissist, isn't it better to just leave them? Is that isn't that what we're supposed to do?
Well, yeah, it's so complicated. It seems like that would be the simple answer, but there's always so much more to it. So, these relationships are extremely complex. You can feel trapped. You may want to leave, but there's so many considerations. They have a lot of control over you if you're in that cycle of abuse. There can be the fear of retaliation if you leave. Often, um, if you're thinking of leaving, that's a time when the narcissist feels somewhat a loss of control, and that can make the harmful behaviors even worse. So it
Mm.
can be scary to leave. And, you know, there's logistics of finding a place to live, um, financial dependence, and then even just the effects of being in that love bombing, gaslighting cycle. It can just be hard to extract yourself. So it is definitely possible to get out of these relationships, but there's a lot of reasons why it's not as simple as just leave.
Sure, sure. And I'm thinking too, maybe not everybody wants to leave, or
Hmm.
there may be some legitimate, would you say, reasons to stay?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, a big one is, you're very connected to this person, love this person, and maybe you want to stay and you want to figure out ways to work through it. Yeah, you may have children with this person. They may be a family member. You may, be caretaking one of your family members. So there are many reasons that you would want to stay in a relationship, and there's ways to work through it if that is the case.
So I use the word disarm, how to disarm narcissists. What does that actually mean? And can you give us some examples of what that might look like?
Yeah, so what it really means is it's a tactic to reduce or neutralize some of the harmful behaviors that come up with narcissists. So um, the aggression, defensiveness, criticism, rage that tends to come out in interactions with them. A way to disarm it is to you emotionally detach yourself. So um, realize that their behavior is coming from a deep wound that they have. Try not to internalize it or take things personally. Remain calm and non-reactive. Uh, all of those things tend to take the power away from the narcissist by just kind of disengaging and not feeding into the cycle, extracting yourself uh, and also having compassion for the person, which maybe sounds a little backwards, but understanding that their behavior is coming from a very deep place of insecurity, and keeping that in mind allows you to realize that maybe these things that they're directing at me, it's not about me, it's about them.
So it's yeah, sounds like using empathy as a tool of staying objective and not
Hmm.
making these things mean something about you, but
Hmm.
continue to let it mean something about them. It's
Hmm.
their wound being expressed in a particular way.
Yeah.
Yeah, so using basically empathy as a tool to disarm the narcissist is what you're saying there.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
I know you go into more depth in your article on this topic, that will be below the in the comments here. But can you talk about the other aspect that you're talking about in your article, using compassion for yourself as a tool, to disarm the narcissist? What does that look like?
Yeah. So, having compassion for yourself is such an important tool. It allows you to acknowledge your feelings without, maybe impulsively reacting to them, but acknowledge your experience, recognize what needs you have in the relationship and doing your best to honor those needs, enforcing your boundaries. So kind of just taking care of yourself and setting yourself up to be able to handle what you're being faced with. And having compassion for yourself really allows you to react or to respond in a more mindful way because you're understanding your experience and you're kind of sitting with what's happening to you. And
Mhm.
yeah.
So how fascinating. You wouldn't really think, I think most people wouldn't think that empathy and compassion are great tools for dealing with a narcissist. So sort of you're saying in summary, basically using empathy with the narcissist to stay objective and understand that
Mhm.
where their behavior is coming from, and then
Mhm.
compassion for yourself to make sure that you are taking care of yourself, that you're setting boundaries, setting limits, which I can see would be both of those would be very, very crucial.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so for anybody listening who thinks that they are in a in a cycle of abuse with a narcissist, when is it time to leave? When is it time to leave or start creating a game plan to leave? What's your advice there?
So, kind of tying in what we just talked about, if it's gotten to the point where you're not able to have compassion for yourself, to enforce boundaries, to say no, to refuse to tolerate mistreatment, or if you're not able to engage with them in a way that is healthy, if you're not able to emotionally detach, that 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 usually is a signal that it might be hard to continue in the relationship. Those boundaries are so important and are really necessary in this type of relationship. So
Mhm.
if that's not there, if you don't feel like you have the support to take care of yourself, that's usually a sign it might be time to leave. If there's any type of abuse present, if you don't feel safe, that's definitely a time to leave. Or if you just realize that, that the person doesn't have enough self-awareness or is not committed to working on the relationship, that, it just kind of signals to you that it might be worth getting out before there's more harm done.
Yeah, yeah. And I can see where this is such a complex
Hmm.
conversation. So for anybody listening, if you ever, of course, feel like you're in harm's way, you would definitely want to call 911 immediately.
Hmm.
And just to clarify, we really can't give advice because each situation is so unique. So if you are suspecting that you're in a relationship with a narcissist, that's why it's so crucial to get a therapist who knows what they're doing,
Hmm.
to really lean on your support system so you can have the resources you need, and yeah, and to get professional help in how to navigate these tricky relationship dynamics. So Claire, thank you so much for talking to us today about this. Really fascinating. If anybody listening wants to read Claire's 5-part series on this, head over to landryetheridge.com. Continue watching some of these training videos or these educational videos. And again, Claire, thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me.